Happy Wednesday, everybody, and thanks for joining another webinar here with Henry Schein One. I know the Henry Schein One team is very excited to continue to bring this education to you as you are in your practice, working on patients, doing what you do best and love best. So very excited for today's webinar, 3 ways to increase electronic billing practice and profitability. And when I think about this topic, I think about somebody in our profession by the name of Dana Johnson, who you can see right now, who knows this, lives it, breathes it, gets really excited about it, and just is an amazing educator when it comes to talking about this technology, but I think more importantly, how you can connect it to your practice and become more profitable and have things become more efficient. So Dana, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Happy hump day.
Yes, happy hump day. All right, so a couple things, everybody. If this is your first go-to webinar, you should see on the right-hand side a place for you to ask questions. So Dana and I love when, as she's going through her presentation, if there's any questions that you have, be sure to put those in there. And then once she's done with her presentation, I'll come back. We'll be sure to get those questions answered for you. Also want to let you know that at the completion of the webinar, once you click stop, there'll be a quick little survey. If you could be so kind to just take a minute and fill that out. I know the Henry Schein One team loves to get your feedback and providing content and topics that are relevant to what you need for your practice. So be sure to fill that out. And Dana, I think we're going to go ahead and transition it over to you. I know you want to go ahead and get your screen pulled up. You got a great presentation, so we'll have you do that, and then the floor will be yours.
All right. How's that? Is that good?
Looks great.
All right. Thank you so much, John, for the introduction. You are so right. I live, breathe, and engage offices with practice profitability and revenue cycle management, every day. That's what I do every day. And so I'm just so excited to be here and talk about, one of my favorite topics in the world. And for those of you that don't know me, maybe this is the first time that we've been introduced on a webinar. I've been in the dental industry for over 25 years. I've been a certified dentrix trainer since 2006. So, the reason that I want to bring that to your attention is that I have lived in your shoes. I have been in the trenches with you. I've done what you do every day, my entire life. I kind of fell into dentistry and worked in 2 dental practices. And so everything that I'm going to be talking about today, I have implemented, used, helped offices integrate into their practices every day. And so just like John said, I live, breathe this topic. And everything that we're going to talk about today has been a part of my life. And so I'm here to bring you some information from, my experiences. Everything I talk about comes from my own experiences. I'm not just plucking things out of the air. And so I'm so excited to be here. But we're talking about profitability today. And so, I wanted to start with just what is profitability, and I looked up the definition of profitability online, and I got a couple different definitions. I found this definition of profitability is, the measure of an organization's profit relative to its expenses. But I thought what the most important line in this definition was organizations that are more efficient will realize more profit. And, that's what I do every day. I'm a workflow expert, and not only do I know, the ins and outs of your Dentrix software, I've been a certified Dentrix trainer for 15 years. And so, but a lot of you already know how to use Dentrix. But the thing about creating an efficient system and more profit is to create a better workflow. And when you are more efficient, you will realize a bigger profit. And then I also found this definition a company's profitability in its ability to make a profit. And I loved this next line: changes were made in operating methods in an effort to increase profitability. So we also have to look at change. We have to look at how can we change our operating procedures? How can we change things in our practice in order to realize a larger profit? And then, the easiest definition to remember about what profitability is it's calculated based on total revenue less expenses. Basic math. It's basic math. What you collect minus your expenses gives you profit. And so I really want you to focus on this change. Changes were made in the operating methods of your organization. And I also want you to focus on the efficiency of what you can do. I found this great quote from Henry Ford. I posted this up on Monday for my Monday motivation because I thought that it was so relevant to today's topic. And so Henry Ford once said, if I'd asked my customers what they wanted, they'd have said, don't change anything. And just think about what if Henry Ford would have listened to his customers and never changed anything about his cars. We would still be driving in, those cars where you wind up the front to get it going or something like that. But just think about Ford is now, launching electric vehicles. And I think that's one thing that we really have to think about is it's up to us as the organization, as the owner of the practice, as the visionaries of our dental industry. It's up to us to think about change and provide those changes to our customers because they just don't know what they want until we offer it up to them. So I just thought that was such a great quote. And it's so relevant to today's topic. So for those of you that are out in the audience today who might not be a practice owner, why is profitability important to you? Well, lots of reasons. Your salary and your benefits are all tied to profitability. So if you are looking for a raise, if you are wanting to hire a new team member, I know a lot of you are looking to hire team members because, we've had this shortage of people to hire over the last 18 months or so. And if you're looking to hire new team members, or if you want to increase the salaries of your current team members or add benefits, maybe you want to add a child care benefit for, the moms that have children, or maybe you want to add a gym membership to your team, that's all tied to profitability. Also, if you ever want to go on team retreats, go to CE courses. We've had some in-person events starting back up this year. I recently attended Serona World and recently attended the ADOM conference this year. And so if you are looking to have these amazing, fun team retreats or CE courses, that's also all tied to the profitability of the practice. And then if your practice offers any kind of retirement plan, 401ks, profit sharing, all of those types of benefits that you all reap the rewards for all comes from profitability. And so it's up to us. It's up to us as the team to help improve the profitability of the practice. I know some of you might not think about how you can, help the practice in increasing revenue, reducing expenses, but you are so much in control of that. And so how can you affect the practice profitability? Well, there's lots of ways. I've worked in 2 dental practices, so I understand that there are things in the practice that you as a team member can help with the consumables that you use every day. I worked in the admin team. I was a front office team member, treatment coordinator, office manager for 2 different dental practices. And And so, it was up to me as kind of the controller of the admin department to control those consumables that we spent money on, like ink cartridges and pens and paper and toilet paper for our bathrooms. And so, it's important that if you are an ordering person for the practice, that you can help control the cost of the consumables in your practice. Also, your Henry Schein One dental team can help you control the expenses of your gloves and your any kind of impression material and all of those consumables that you also use in the hygiene department, like Prophy paste. And, so reach out to your Henry Schein One dental team. They can help you control consumables. Look for ordering, paper where it's less expensive. And then I love this one. I was always a front office person, and I always froze to death at the front desk because, the back office, they always had all these lights and technology going in the back. So they were always hot, and, we were always cold at the front desk. And now I work with so many different admin teams, and everybody seems to have a space heater under the floor of their desk. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? So front office, layer up so, you can control those heating costs in the practice. I know, these are things that you might not really think about, but these are different ways that you can control the practice profitability. Seek out cost-saving services. Like I mentioned, I attended the ADOM conference this year, and, a lot of times the office managers or the dentist, they attend these types of meetings so that they can seek out different types of services that might help their practice be more profitable, more efficient. So, in the couple slides that I just went through, finding ways of being more efficient is going to help your practice become more profitable. So seeking out those cost-saving services, and also, you can also review those types of services that you're already using, making sure that you are on the right plan for your practice. And then pay attention, to your clock in and clock out time. That's important. As team members, it's important that we take ownership and accountability for our time clock. And that is a part that we can also help control. So the most important one that we're going to be talking about today is this seeking out cost-saving services. As a team member, if you're a dental assistant, you can seek out cost-saving ways to save on your lab bill, making sure that you are looking at your lab bill, making sure that you are paying the best price for your lab expenses. You can also, as an admin team member or an office manager, making sure that you are paying the best prices and fees. You're not getting overcharged for your merchant fees, things like that. But what we want to really focus on today are these cost savings services that you use every day in your practice. And probably one of the biggest expenses that you use in the practice is your merchant, your credit card processing, your billing statements. How are you managing your revenue cycle, your managing of your accounts receivable? So that's what we're going to focus on today. But I wanted to also point out some other ways that you as a team member can really participate in the profitability of your practice. And that makes you such a value asset to your practice. And so I'm so excited for us to talk about this. So number one is lower your overhead expenses with electronic billing statements. This is probably one of the easiest ways to affect and participate in the reduction of expenses in the practice. And I'll never forget when I started using QuickBill in my own practice. It was such a huge time saver, such a huge cost savings in our overhead expenses. So when you think about overhead expenses, look at what other industries are doing. When you think about statements, dental, we're not the only industry that has statements. When I looked, when I was kind of building this presentation, I started thinking about, okay, well, billing statements are used in lots of other industries. We have, I have my Chase account, and so I use Chase, and because I get an electronic billing statement from them, or not a billing statement, but a statement of my reconciliation statement every month. And because I elect for a paperless billing statement, that saves me $6 per month on my fees that I pay to having my Chase account. If I wanted paper statements sent to me through my bank, then they would charge me $6 per month if I wanted a paper statement. So that's a significant savings, not for only for me, but for the company. And so Chase and other dental other industries are taking note of that. So on my AT&T bill, I have AT&T for my phone service, and I save $10 per line on my phone statement because I elect for a paperless statement for my phone bill. And so I'm sure the other ones like T-Mobile and Verizon, they probably all have the same types of savings on your statement if you elect for a paperless statement option. And then Wells Fargo, their savings is $5 on their consumer bill. If you elect to take a paperless statement with Wells Fargo, it saves you $5 per month. And then US Bank is $2 per month. So we're not the only industry that should be taking note on the cost savings for electronic statements, because these other large companies have already started those types of adjustments and courtesies to their customers for electing to take on an electronic statement instead of these companies having to send out a paper statement. And because there is so much wasted time and resources with a paper statement. You think about the time that it takes you to print the statement. Think about sorting those statements. When you print the statement, now you've got to sort through them all. Every time you are touching paper, it takes time, a lot of time. I know it seems like it's so routine, and you've been doing it the same way for so long that it just seems like, oh, this is the easiest way ever. I just print my statements, I sort through them, I stuff them into envelopes, and, I put stamps on them, and, I have to, lick the envelopes. I know you probably have those bottles of water, with the little sponges on the ends. I remember those, okay? But it takes time for you to do all of these things when you are working with paper. And think about the material resources that you are having to consume and order and buy and design. These material resources are costing your practice an enormous amount of money. And so if we can eliminate all of these things, then it can save you over $4 per statement. So I used to teach these seminars for Henry Schein One. They used to be called Insight seminars. I used to go in and teach Insight seminars. Probably one of my favorite things to do. And I remember I would get to the part about the quick bill statements, and I would ask the audience, and I would say, what if you could save over $4 per statement on every statement you send? What if you could save $4 per statement? Would you be interested? So I want all of you to think about that right now. I know if there's a way that you can raise your hand, I don't know if there's a little hand that you can raise and just say, yes, that's me. I would love to save $4 per statement. Because if you're sending, 100 statements a month, that's $400 per statement that you are paying for just in people resources and material resources. And so that's probably one of the first things that we can do here in today's talk is talk about reducing those expenses. Because what was our definition of profitability? Revenue minus expenses. So if we can reduce the expenses, oh my gosh, we are almost home free when it comes to increasing the profitability. This is probably the number one thing that you can do in your practice is help to reduce the expenses. Number two that you can do is you can create a better workflow for yourself and your team. I am a workflow expert. I love observing and helping practices create a better workflow so that you have more time in your day to do things that are important, like call patients that are overdue or reach back out to patients that have unscheduled treatment. Because if we can buy you time back in your schedule, then you have created a more efficient workflow, and then you have created yourself more time in your day to focus on the things that are really important. So a couple things with creating a better workflow. Number one, and I talk about this a lot, everyday billing. I was just working with a young lady the other day, and she might be in the audience today. I'm not going to call her out by name, but she is definitely me when I was first starting out in the practice. And when I was first starting out in my practice, I remember that the existing office manager, she trained me in how she would do things. She trained me on her workflow. She trained me on how to set up a billing statement workflow. And, back then it was, okay, this is our boxes of statements. Here's our envelopes. We store them upstairs because that's where our storage is. And, we would print, a couple hundred statements per month. And then I would have to sort through them every month, and I would have to stuff them into envelopes and then take them to the post office. And that's the only way I knew. That was the only thing that I knew because that's how I was trained. But after a couple of years of this, I was fed up. I really was fed up with the statements, doing them once a month, because not only did it take me a couple days to get through the statements, I would have to tell my front office team, I would have to say, okay, today is statement run day. It's the last day of the month. I have to do statements. So I'm really going to be out of commission for the next couple of days because I have to get these statements out. And so my team would have to field calls for me. But I would finally get my statements sent, and then the following week, oh my gosh, I would get so many phone calls, and yeah, a lot of money came in, which was great, but the workflow just was exhausting. It was really challenging for me to get through those statements every month. And when I had my Dentrix software, I knew that there had to be a better way. This was the best software in the world. I had the best software in the world in my practice, and I knew that there had to be a better way. And so I developed a way of doing everyday billing, and it changed my world. I actually enjoyed doing statements. I actually loved sorting through my statements because I only had to do a few per day. And it freed me up to do other things like schedule patients for unscheduled treatment and make sure our recare system was working really well and get ready for those consultations. And so it changed my world, and I know it will change your world too. Another thing that we can do with our workflow is we can get paid after hours. All right? Think about if you came in the next morning and you had a pop-up on your screen that says, "Good morning, Dana. You've received 3 payments while you were sleeping." And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's fantastic. Then you can just post those payments automatically to the ledger. I mean, how amazing is that? If you could come in the next morning and you have payments that you've received after hours, and you can just automatically post those to the ledger. You don't have to open an envelope. You don't have to touch a paper check. You don't have to manually post that payment to the ledger. Imagine the time savings for you. And if you are still working remotely in your practice, think about the possibility of you performing these tasks from home, because you don't have to have a paper check to post. You don't have to open an envelope that gets mailed to the practice. Think about the workflow efficiencies, which then will create better profitability for your practice. I'm just so excited about the teams that I've worked with that have implemented these 3 things, just the changes that have made in their lives. So let's think about this everyday billing for a second, okay? So this is kind of the typical workflow. This is the workflow that I was just working with. So this workflow is still probably in 80% of the practices that I encounter. So this young lady that I was working with, her statement date is the 30th of the month. So she gets prepared, and she confirmed with me that she finally probably gets her statements out around the 3rd of the month. So she prints them all on the 30th or the 31st, whatever day is the last day of the month. She finally gets her statements out around the 3rd of the month. Now, if you're sending statements in the mail, then you also have to rely on that mailman getting your statements out to the mailboxes of your patients, which right now is probably taking between 5 and 10 days. Even in your local community, mail is taking 5 to 10 days to get out into the mailboxes of your patients. Okay, so then the payments finally start coming in, probably between the 10th and the 30th. So you get a flood of payments, right? You have to sort through all that mail. You have to open those envelopes. You have to manually post those payments to the ledger. All of that takes time. And then you repeat it, okay? You repeat this cycle monthly, all right? And when I was working through this cycle, for me, it was exhausting because I wanted to spend more time working with patients on treatment, and I wanted to talk to patients about their oral health. So this process for me was exhausting, and I needed to make a change. And what I also realized was about 30 days later, most people are receiving their first statement, okay? And we all know that if we work through this old school, old-fashioned, time-consuming way that we've all known forever, patient balances usually go over 60 days past due. and it makes it much harder for us to collect money. So let's think about the daily billing system. Okay, this one is just so exciting for me to talk about. When you send a statement every day, your statements go out in real time, okay, within 24 hours of the family or the patient owing money. So, for example, if you have a patient that comes in today and they have a copay, conveniently forgets their check or their credit card, or they just forget that they owe money today, okay, then you're like, oh, we'll just send you a statement. Well, if you're doing everyday billing, they're going to get a statement tomorrow. And if you're using email statements, they're going to get a statement in real time. And how awesome is that if you are actually giving patients statements in real time? So payments come in every day, all right? You don't get this flood of money come in once a month. You actually get payments that are coming in every day. And so there's just this little trickle of money every day, and it improves the cash flow. So talking about cash flow, I was working with a practice, and we were doing a team meeting, and we were talking about, the profitability of the practice. And this doctor was really, really struggling because she was having to transfer money from her personal account into the business account in order to cover payroll. And that's unacceptable. That's unacceptable. And so, we talked about some ways that we can just tweak their billing systems and improve the timeliness of patients receiving statements, and what a difference that has made in her practice. And I love changing people's lives like that every day. But in everyday billing, I want you to know that everyone is still on a 30-day cycle, okay? Patients are not receiving the same statement every day. So I don't want you to start freaking out about the patients receiving too many statements. They're still on a 30-day cycle. They're just on a different due date. Everybody's on a different due date. So Dentrix is smart enough to know that the patient has not received a billing statement in the last 30 days. And it's smart enough to know that. And so I was just so excited when I was able to develop this system. So when you do a 30 everyday billing, then the second statement is ready to go out when the balance is 30 days instead of 60 days. And so you are usually getting paid within 30 days instead of a 60-day past due. And I want to show you why that's so important. So when you look at this, I love this graphic. I show this graphic a lot, and because it shows you that decrease in your value of your accounts receivable if your accounts go past 30 days, go past 60 days, or even go past 90 days. So if you look at your 30-day balances, so if you're not collecting on the day of service and you're waiting 30 days to send out that first billing statement, then already at 30 days past due, you can see where that first yellow dot is, the value of that money is already below 90%. And so you've already lost about 10% of the value of that money just by doing a monthly statement run. At 60 days past due, so now your account balance, your patient's account balance is now at the 60-day mark. Now your accounts, the value of that accounts receivable has already dipped below 80%. So you've already lost 20% of the value of that money if you are having to send out then a second statement, and now you're collecting that money after 60 days. When it goes past 90 days, look at where that drops. And see, I'm putting that little yellow dot right in the center of the high, between the high estimate and the low estimate. So this is kind of right in the middle. once you get to 90 days past due, that money has already dropped below 70% in value. So it's so important for you to not only collect money on the day of service, but also be able to send that billing statement sooner, send it in real time, so you can at least get paid within that 30-day mark. So we're just going to go through this again because this is so important. The reason that the value of that money is so low is because of using up all these resources. The people resources in your practice is the most expensive overhead expense that you have in your practice. The people resource is your staff salary. The salary expense that you see on your profit and loss statement is the salary expense. And so the people resources that you're using to collect that money is the most expensive expense in your practice. So if we can send out statements in real time and save those costs and those resources, the value of our accounts receivable goes up, and so that's just so critical to the profitability of your practice. So getting paid after hours, like I said, oh my gosh, what if you walked in your practice, you had a little pop up on your screen, that had payments that are coming in after hours. When you think about yourself as a consumer, a lot of times you have put the kids to bed, and now you have time to actually pay some bills. Maybe you need to go look for scheduling an appointment. You just got a notification that you have a bill you need to pay. And so a lot of times we're all paying our bills after hours. So putting a pay now button right on your website. I see that happening a lot more in practices. And then you can click a pay now button right in the email. Oh my gosh, that would be awesome. So you get an electronic statement, comes into your email. You can click on the pay now button, enter in your favorite method of payment, whether it be your credit card that you get points for, or maybe you're using, Apple Pay or something like that. You can put in your payment option, and then you pay your bill right from a direct email. Patients could also log into the patient portal on your website. I love the Patient Engage patient portal that patients can remote in. The patient portals are so important, especially for patients that might be taking care of their kids, maybe their college kids, finances for their healthcare or their dentistry. Maybe it's a patient that's taking care of their elderly parents. And so the patient portal can be so important to people connecting with their dental practice, and they can pay their bill through the portal. They could schedule an appointment through the portal. So it's so critical to have a patient portal up and going on your website. And then those patients or those payments automatically post to the ledger. It's like having your own virtual assistant is what I think about it. I think about how you now have your own virtual assistant. It's just such a great resource. So when we're thinking about those cost-saving resources to reduce the expenses in our practice, you've just hired a virtual assistant, which reduces your expenses. So this virtual assistant, when you're sending out electronic statements, email statements, it actually gives you a status report of your statements right then and there. I was working with a dental practice recently, and so we enabled email statements while I was there. They were already using QuickBill for their paper statements, but we started up the email statements while I was there. And so we did our first statement run, and you get this the screen that comes up, and it shows you the status of that email. You know how you can put in like if you send an email to someone and you can have them click on it if they have received it. And so you get a notification if they've actually received it, opened it. And that's exactly what happened while we were looking at this report. So we have this report up on the screen, and just after we sent the statements, the email statements, we started seeing the statuses change. It went from sent to viewed to opened to paid, like within 5 minutes of us running statements. And so the practice actually received payment on 3 accounts within the first 20 minutes of us sending statements. I mean, just think about if we would have sent those statements out on paper, it would take 5 to 10 days for the patient to receive it. And then it would probably take another 5 to 10 days for them to actually receive the payment. But we received a payment on 3 accounts within 20 minutes. I was blown away. I was so excited. And it delivers those payments right to your workstation. So not only were the payments received, we could see the status change to paid, but then those payments come right into the practice's workstation, and then they can post those payments directly to the ledger. They didn't have to open an envelope. They didn't have to go out to the mailbox. They didn't have to shred anything. It's just the workflow was so incredible, and this practice was so blown away that I just love to see the happiness on their faces when we made that happen. It was just so fun. So I know I went through a lot of information with you today, and so what I want you to think about is, what are you willing to do today? How are you going to make a difference in your practice today? Because there are things that I talked about today, like the daily billing, like doing, reviewing your lab statement or reviewing your merchant account. What are you willing to do today to make a difference in the profitability of your practice? And I would love to hear some of you put some of those comments in the chat, because I really want to hear, what kinds of things that you can implement today in order to change the profitability of your practice. Because, when I was in my own practice and QuickBill came out, and when I was in my own practice, we still had paper charts. We were still a full paper practice. And, we had paper charts and the whole works. And when QuickBill came out, I was like, oh, bummer. We're not paperless yet. I can't use QuickBill. And I was totally wrong. I mean, I was so ignorant to the fact that QuickBill is one of the easiest things to implement in your practice. You don't have to be paperless. You don't have to have a chartless practice. You can implement QuickBill now. And if I would have known that in my own practice, 15 plus years ago, that would have been the first thing that I would have done. And I tell that to people every day, because it changed my life in my practice and in the practices that I've worked in the last few weeks. Just making those small little changes to their billing systems, whether it be daily billing or enabling the email statements, it has changed their lives. And that's what I love to do every day. And so I ask you to put some comments in the chat box. What are you willing to do today to make a difference in the profitability of your practice with the things that we talked about today? And I want to take lots of questions, and I also want you to know about a limited time offer that Henry Schein One is offering up for QuickBill email statements. and also how to get more information about doing a demo, or just getting more information about how to enable quick bill into your practice, because this is one thing that you can do today that you can get started right away. So, John,
Yes.
let me know what kinds of comments do we have? What kind of questions do we have? I know we've got, 10 or 15 minutes to go through some questions, so I'm excited.
Absolutely. Well, first off, I just want to say, great job. I was listening. I love how you started out and laid the foundation of some of the basics, right, of profit in the practice. I know you and I have talked about this many times. When it comes to a dental practice, at times it can be difficult to listen to the profit part, right? Because you're there, you want to take care of patients. I mean, that's your main goal. But I really like how you shared with everybody the importance of, what does that profit mean, right? It means adding more operatories, adding more equipment so that you can see and take care of more patients, or in some of the examples that you met, it actually hit home with being able to add more people in the practice or raises and things like that. I love that. And I think the final piece is tying together what all of this technology means for all that, right? I think the example of the AT&T bill and the Citibank bill, I mean, those little dollars, they don't seem like a lot, but I think to your point, they add up, I think, especially in a dental practice. So I think that's what's so exciting about a lot of these newer technologies. So awesome job. All right, we do have some questions that people
Awesome.
share. So I wanted to get to those. The first one here is, what program do you use for after hours automated payment posting?
Yeah, so it all goes through QuickBill. It all goes through the QuickBill process. So QuickBill came out probably, over 15 years ago, with a process where you could send your statements out electronically. So you could send your statements out electronically to Dentrix, and then they would print and mail your statements for you. So it eliminated the process of you having to print, fold stuff, send off paper. Dentrix would do the paper for you. Now, Dentrix just launched the email statement, which now it still uses QuickBill. QuickBill has now just been upgraded to offer email statements. So now you can actually send a real-time email statement. It all goes through QuickBill, and it goes directly into the patient's inbox. And then they can have a pay now button right in their inbox. And then the payment gets processed immediately. You get a notification on your computer that you've received a payment. And then you just have to click a button and it posts the payment directly to the ledger. So everything still is going through QuickBill, and QuickBill's been around for, like I said, over 15 years. When I was in a practice, I've been using QuickBill. So it is one of the easiest, most efficient, cost savings, e-service that you can enable in your practice today. And so I cannot stress it enough, how much I would start using this service.
Excellent. All right, I have another question, but before I do that, Dana, we have a nice comment from somebody here that said, we are about to pull the trigger on online bill pay, which is exciting, right?
Yay!
It's like this ceremonial moment that they're
I
about to
know.
do that. Congrats to them. And I think, like you mentioned, for people on the other side of that is a lot of efficiencies. Okay, so another question that we have is, when will text to pay be available?
Oh, great question. Yes, text to pay is almost available. It will be available first quarter of 2022. And so it'll still all go through QuickBill. So it's just going to be the next available enhancement with QuickBill is the text to pay feature. It'll be very similar to the email feature, where there'll be a pay now button right in the text. And then patients will be able to put in their credit card, and those payments will come right back into your Dentrix software. And then you'll be able to post that payment right into your Dentrix ledger. Excellent. So first quarter 2022, be on the lookout for it.
Okay. All right. So with everyday billing, when a patient is seen 2 or 3 times in a month, Will they get 2 or
Yeah.
3 bills in that month?
No. They still only get one statement every 30 days. So let's say, for example, the patient comes in on the 5th of the month and they have a copay of $25. They forgot their payment. They forgot their payment method. So they may get a statement the next day. And then let's say they come back in for another appointment on the 10th of the month. Dentrix is not going to send them another statement until the 5th of the next month. So they're still on a 30-day cycle, but unless you forced a statement out of the ledger directly. So if you are going to force a statement out of the ledger, then yes, they may get multiple statements throughout the month. But when you're doing your regular billing cycle, everybody's still on a 30-day cycle.
Got it. Okay. So here's another one. We're using another service, another company, it looks like, that has, text to pay, or they're getting asked, by some of these different companies out there that have the same technologies. And now they have text to pay. Should we use their service? And I mean, as you know, Dana, this is something, as these technologies are exploding, there's a lot of different companies out there doing this. So I think it's a great question. I'd love to have you kind of give your perspective.
Yeah. I've been getting this question a lot. I have a lot of practices that use other services, and these other services, these other vendors are coming out with their own version of text to pay. And I get that. And the reason why I feel Quick Bill, if you can just hold off until first quarter of 2022, get going right now on Quick Bill email, because that's at least could get you started. But then text to pay is coming. And the reason I think that I would say stick with the Quick Bill is because it's so tightly integrated with your Dentrix software, because you're still sending out your statements still through the same process that you're familiar with. You're familiar with going to the office manager and clicking on reports and billing and sending your statements through your Dentrix software. You're comfortable with that process. And I want you to continue that process that you're so familiar with. And so if you stick with QuickBill email and then text to pay is coming, then that process is going to be the same that you're so familiar with. You can still put a personalized message on your statement. So your process is still going to stay inside of Dentrix. You won't have to leave Dentrix in order to process your statement. And so that's why I feel like this process, this feature, this service is still the best on the market for you as a Dentrix user, is because it's so tightly integrated with your Dentrix software. You can see reports, right in your Dentrix software if the patient has opened the message, viewed the message, and then when they pay, the payment comes right into Dentrix. And so that's why I really feel like the Quick Bill service is a higher level of integration. So the efficiency is going to be at a higher level. And like we talked about throughout the presentation today, is efficiency creates better profitability, and change helps you to reduce those expenses. And so that's where I feel is Quick Bill is still the best option for you because of the efficiency and the tight integration with your Dentrix software.
Yeah, great insight. And again, I think it's one of those things. There's a lot out there. However, taking a holistic approach to it, like you shared today, can be the difference between really helping you save time. So, okay, we've got some questions left. So we've got 5 minutes. I want to try to get to as many as we can while we have you here today. So we'll do kind of like a little bit of a lightning round, if we can. First is that with the electronic billing via email, does there need to be a link to your practice's website?
There does not need to be a link to the practice website for the Quick Bill email. So when they get the email statement, there will be a button right in there that says view statement. So the patient or the account holder will be able to view the statement directly from the email. And then there's also a pay now button right in the email. So all they have to do is either view the statement or click on the pay now button. And they can do that all independently from the email. The practice does not need a button on the website. Now, I encourage you having something on your website, but it's not required.
Got it. Awesome. Okay. So this is a two-question question. Do you have to ask permission from the patient to email them their statement? And does the patient have to create an online account to use the Pay Now feature, which I think you just actually answered that second part there. So
yeah, great questions. No, you do not need permission from the patient because it's not a marketing email. And the second part is they do not need to create an account. I think the email statement will just verify a piece of contact information for them to view it, but they don't need to create an account.
Okay, excellent. Can you talk about if not billed since, or can you talk about the if not billed since button when running statements? If we currently bill on the 1st and 15th, do I enter the 31st and 14th or the 1st and the 15th?
You don't ever change that if billed since date. Let it default. It's always going to default to 30 days ago. So the most important thing to do if you're going to do statements every day, or if you're going to do statements on the 1st and the 15th, just make sure that if not billed box is checked, but you don't ever have to change the date because it always is going to default to 30 days ago.
Got it. Okay. Here's a good one. Do we have to switch our credit card merchant?
So great question. If you want the payments to come directly into your Dentrix software and post to the ledger, then you will need a WorldPay account. You will need a merchant account through the Dentrix provider, through the merchant provider. So a couple of different options for you. One is if you're very much in love with your current merchant, then you can keep your current merchant for everything else, and then you could just have a WorldPay Lite account just for email statements, or you can not use the Pay Now feature in the email, but I think that's kind of a waste. So I would definitely either switch your merchant over to WorldPay, which is a great option because they will offer you, the same rates and fees that you're paying with your current merchant. So I think it's worth switching because then you can, with the Dentrix Pay option, you can then, with the WorldPay merchant, you can store credit cards on file right in the patient ledger. You can have credit cards attached to payment agreements. The payments directly post into the Dentrix ledger. So I feel like it's worth you switching merchants. And so I would highly encourage you to, but you will have to have a WorldPay, at least a WorldPay Lite account in order to use the Pay Now button in the email.
Excellent. All right, we got 30 seconds. And then just a quick reminder, everybody. Well, first of all, thank you for watching today. We know all of you are working in your practices, taking care of your patients. So I know the Henry Schein One team really appreciates it, as does Dana. She loves to come on and share what she's passionate about, but certainly when people show up, that's always even better. So thanks for coming. And also when we conclude the webinar here, there's going to be a short survey. Would love for you to take that. Last question, Dana, I have here is, what is the additional cost for the Quick Bill feature?
So Quick Bill, if you use Quick Bill in its original form, where they're actually sending your statements for you in a paper form, the statements are like less than $1 per statement. So still super cost effective. The email portion is a monthly cost. I think last time I checked, double check, but last time I checked, I think it was $19.95 per month for unlimited email statements. Okay. But I'm sure with the promotion, you're getting some really good cost savings.
Excellent. Well, Dana, thank you. And again, everybody, any questions that Dana was not able to get to, the Henry Schein One team will be sure to get those answered for you via email. We did want to let everybody know that this is being recorded, so it'll be available for on-demand viewing as well. And thanks for joining. Thanks for continuing to support all of this great education. And Dana, thanks for what you do, everybody. And we'll
Thank
see you
you.
soon.
Thank you so much.
All right, see ya.